over to East London because at West Ham United, it looks like David Moyes is going to be leaving the club. You've got, of course, a close contact with him. What are your thoughts? And are you feeling disappointed? Is it harsh on David Moyes?
I think I mentioned last week that I felt this was very harsh. And I knew that when it became public that West Ham had been speaking to other potential candidates, David would have not been happy with that, to put it mildly. It isn't fair. It really isn't. Obviously, something's happened behind the scenes. I think it's been extremely harsh. I think, when they brought him back, having been there before, and then he's done a great job with them. I think the average on the table, I'd have to look at the actual numbers, but I think they're somewhere between the mid-table, certainly, with a trend upwards. And, of course, the European trophy. And then, I think, semi-final again this year. Look, West Ham, I know it's the Moyes style of play that a lot of the fans have been criticising, but you've got to look at the reality of the injuries, etc., that's gone on. I do believe he's been very harshly treated. I think they'll probably rue this mistake. And I think, West Ham and David Moyes would have been a good fit if there'd been good time. But something's obviously happened behind the scenes. He brought in people like Jared Bowen, from Hull on next to nothing. And I know there was a lot of disquiet at that time, thinking that, why are we bringing in a player from the Championship of this sort of quality? And he's turned out becoming a West Ham legend. And that was purely a David Moyes, player and signing. So, those sort of things you've got to bear in mind, that it takes a while to build a team together. And, I think they could have gone on for another season, got the squad fit. And I think we might have seen a good West Ham again next year. But we're now going to see it with potentially, the rumour is Lopetegui. Why he left Wolves, we've yet to really find out. We'll see. But I'm sure Mr. Moyes will pop up somewhere else. He deserves another great job. He's obviously a very, very experienced manager now. And I wish him the best.
Before we come on to Lopetegui, Keith, I do want to ask your opinion about the club's decision. Do you think that they could, and the fans could, come to regret the decision of letting Moyes go too early, potentially? Or is it actually fair that they have been disappointed with the football? Is it fair that the fans, are expecting always the best, and actually Moyes hasn't delivered? Or is it that the fans have expected too much this season, given the injuries and so forth?
I think they'd be a bit unrealistic about what could be achieved this season, given that they've been playing in the European competition all season as well, and have had to put up with that with a lot of injuries in the squad. So there's been a big workload on that squad. I think it's been unreasonable. Of course, the West Ham fans, and I know many of them, will always believe they're still, Trevor Brooking, Martin Peters, and that he should still be playing gorgeous, silky football every week. Look, it's lovely to wish for that, but the reality of the Premier League these days is not that. Given the stadium as well, with a lot of talk about the atmosphere in the stadium, and when it comes alive, it's okay, but otherwise it could be quite dead. A lot of issues around that are not David's making, and I think it's perhaps unreasonable expectation from quite a few of the West Ham fans. And, a lot of clubs I know right now, including my one, Everton, would be happy to say, okay, we'll settle for a mid-table position, have a nice quiet season, and move on to the next one.
And Keith, you mentioned in there about Julian Lopetegui. He's now the favourite to replace David Moyes at the London Stadium. What are your thoughts? And do you think that is an upgrade on Moyes? Do you think he is a better suit to West Ham and their fans at the style of play they're expecting? Or actually, should West Ham fans really be expecting a similar style of football potentially?
Well, it's so difficult when you compare foreign managers and how they play in different styles in different leagues, because they're up against different opposition and different quality of opposition. So Lopetegui, they may think, has a certain style of attacking play that would suit West Ham. Certainly at Wolves, we didn't see many signs of that when he was there briefly. There seems to have been some fallouts behind the scenes as well. A lot of rumours about he was promised different things that never happened. Whether that's the case or not, it's another he said, she said, great media battle. We just don't know. But whether he's got the ability to management the players in the Premier League, I still have a question mark about. And whether he can produce the style of play, again, that the West Ham fans deserve, compared to when he's been in La Liga or other places, then we'll wait and see. But I think it's going to be a harder job for him than they imagine.
And you mentioned it in there, Keith, about Lopetegui and Wolves going back when he left quite unexpectedly. Can that be a concern for West Ham fans, given that whole sort of situation with the smoke and mirrors? No one really knows what happened. Can that be a concern for the fans, that it seemed to be a fallout on both sides?
Yes, I think it is a concern. He obviously has decided that he's put his line in the sand, and had either been told or not. Different understandings can often happen in conversations. So we've got to see. But yes, obviously he stands up for his principles, and if that will lead to conflict with the West Ham ownership, only time will tell. But they're also a pretty strong group and have their opinions, with David Sullivan, Karen Brady, etc. They're no pushovers, as we know. So it's going to be interesting to watch West Ham for next season. It's going to be a fresh start for them with a new manager, hopefully some new signings for them as well. And if they can stay injury free, if he gets a good start and a good run, these things can often spiral upwards. But in the same way, as we've seen, West Ham fans can get on your back pretty quickly as well.
I mean, it looks like Keith Lopetegui rejected Bayern Munich in favour of West Ham United. Quite a few fans were quite surprised by that. What are your thoughts around that scenario potentially? And actually, does that mean that Lopetegui's been promised a big transfer budget for the summer? Could West Ham fans be expecting now some major signings with Lopetegui in charge?
Well, I never really felt he was a good fit for Bayern. I just don't think he's the right personality, and for them, that is their key decision-making ability, as to your personality and how you will fit in the Bayern way. So I wasn't really surprised. I don't know what has been promised at West Ham. I'm sure it had to be some sort of transfer budget. Looking at the numbers, I don't think they're really in any great danger of breaching the PSR situations. And then again, we've got the new rules, hopefully for next season, as we've discussed. So there could be some movement for him. Depends if he wants to sell any of the players he's got. I mean, there are some value in the squad, but I don't know what he's been promised. But I would think there would have been something there, certainly, in terms of giving him a chance for a fresh start.
I mean, Keith, of course, as we've mentioned about the fact that Lopetegui was at Wolves, is there any chance that he might look at some Wolves players to bring into West Ham? Or actually, given that the fact that relationship looks like on the outside it was cut with ties pretty quickly, does that therefore mean that it's unlikely they will go shopping in the West Midlands?
Well, the story with Wolves, obviously, for many years has been the involvement of Jorge Mendes, the super agent, and bringing many Portuguese and Spanish players into Wolves, particularly Portuguese. And so Lopetegui will have had a chance to have dealt with them while he was there. Obviously, there's a greater chance of him, becoming closer to some of those players from Portugal and Spain. So I think there is a chance that there could be some shopping there. A lot of this will be dictated, though, by the agent, by Mendes. As I said, he seems to control a lot of the issues in terms of player movement. And we'll have to see how close Mendes and West Ham are in terms of movement as well. And I'm not sure who Lopetegui's agent is, but if it's Mendes, then we would certainly see some movement.